So, this is going to be about pretty much why I think most people who are intelligent, I guess, come to a standoff with questions very often and are always asking questions about everything and end up getting to a standoff with a spiral of questions that a lot of the times ends with, so does this really even matter? You ask so many questions and you get to the consensus that if I'm even asking if it matters, it probably doesn't, right? If I even have to ask, does it matter, then it probably doesn't. And you get to a lot of these, and as a higher intelligence person, you're gonna come to a conclusion where you just don't want to feel stupid for putting your all into nothing. I think that's a big thing, is that a lot of people don't want to put their all into nothing. This video is just for, I guess, it's in the title, but so I feel like I just don't have a purpose, because every time I think about anything, I come to the consensus that in the grand scheme of things, it's just nothing. Like, it just doesn't really matter. And I'm at a park right now just recording this because I sit here and I kind of just like watch people go by, and I'm just like wondering, what are they feeling as they are, running or walking and talking with people, Are they walking with purpose because they don't ask these questions? And that's another thing too, is the disassociation with everyone else. The unconnected feeling with the world around you, because you just feel like a blank piece of paper in a stack of documents, right? You just feel like you're not supposed to be there. But like, in a sense, I just wonder, if I wasn't, and it doesn't make, it does, but it doesn't at the same time. You're not smarter because you ask more questions, but in the same sense, you are smarter. And, I have, not as a flex or anything, but just to say that, I know I am of higher intelligence. I've gotten my IQ tested a few times. I just know, you just know if you're higher intelligence. It isn't something you need to question, but you will know. And I just talk to people, and I feel like I get so frustrated too, because they aren't on the same page as me always. Like, I'm just talking about something and I'm 6 steps ahead because I, with what I think is a normal thought process, I would expect them to be, right there with me. So I have to go 3 steps back and explain why this and that, and then I get there. But yeah, I just feel I feel like I have to dumb down my conversations and whatnot. You get into like a talk or a circle, and you start talking, and you're like talking about the status of the world right now. What do you think about this, that, and that? I have to dumb down my conversation just to, I guess, fit in. I have to, there's certain topics I just don't talk about that are, mainstream. And I don't want to talk about them because they are so mainstream, because it's just so obvious, It's so mainstream that, I've had enough time to just kind of sit there and think about it. So I'm already on the consensus that, it's pretty obvious what the verdict is on these topics. But I think I'm 20 years old, and I constantly think, if I feel like this at 20, what's coming when I'm 25, because none of this really started until I feel like, technically you are a dumbass, or you are retarded, until you're probably like 15 or 16. And things rapidly change, I think, in your brain at those ages. And that's when I kind of started to notice it too, is around that time. I think one of the only things that, brings me joy, even though it has no purpose in the grand scheme of things, is just learning and expanding my knowledge and kind of just trying out new things, trying out new hobbies. And for some reason, in my brain, it just has to be new, constantly new, for me to feel like some sort of joy from it. I feel joy from, certain things I find along the way that I think are pretty fun and cool. But I think as someone, too, with higher intelligence, you always need constant, what's the word? Just distraction. You just need a constant sense of distraction. That's not the word I want to use, but you need something always hitting the brain, But I think that, in a sense, it is true. You just always, as a higher intelligence person, need there's a freaking car going by. But yeah, you need more for what you feel is less. And you feel like you have no purpose. And it's not just high intelligence, but it is a high sense of consciousness and the world around you. And you can't really get that unless you have a higher sense of intelligence, I feel like. And I ramble like this because, in a way, I literally have nobody. I am extremely lonely, and I just sit and do nothing with no one all the time. And I think that's extremely bad for people with a sense of higher intelligence, because it puts you in the void feeling. You ask too many questions because your mind is able to race on when it isn't distracted. And I noticed that when I was about 16 or 17 is when I was alone, I thought the most. And I started to hate being alone, not just because there wasn't anyone around, but because I didn't want to do anything but think, even though it brought mental destruction to me. But you want to think, right? And the more I stay alone, the more I think, and the more that I contemplate life itself. And not just the meaning, but what it is. It's just the... I can't quite explain it, but I think that if I could, in a sense, sometimes I wonder if I was given the chance to press two buttons to stay the mental aptitude that I have now, or dumb myself down and my consciousness, would I? And I actually wonder if I would. I really do. I just had a thought and it left my brain. But I really do wonder if I would do that, just because of, it came back to me, like the emotions of something. I noticed when I got a motorcycle, right? I got a motorcycle. It was my first vehicle as like a teenager. So I got my first vehicle was a motorcycle. Got a title for it and everything, but I wasn't as excited as I expected to be. And I felt like ever since then, I really have just not been excited for much. And I don't quite know why. And I try to point it at things, but the biggest thing I can point at is purpose. And I think it attacks everything else, whether you subconsciously have a purpose. Because I don't have to think about, and I know most people don't have to think about their purpose in life just to be able to enjoy that day, right? You don't even think about it some days. But still, and a day is more enjoyable subconsciously having a purpose. And when I'm constantly consciously thinking of a purpose and can't find it, I think it deepens the effect of that subconscious feeling. But yeah, I here at the park. But yeah, I'm alone. I have been for months now. I'm working a job, and I'm hundreds of miles from home. Or any of my friends. I got like 2 or 3 work friends, but they're always doing their own thing. And I don't want to seem desperate to beg them to hang out because I just feel so alone. But it's just what it is, and it is what it is, But yeah, I wonder if I would press that button and if I would want to just have more emotions towards things. And it's weird because the only emotion I seem to, and it sounds cringe and corny, but I really don't care. It's just, it is like, this is what it is. Is just like anger. Like I just hate everything. I'm just looking for something to be negative about, I feel like now. And I think I've tried to just not try and care about as many things. And I think it made it better for not trying to be so mad at everything all the time. But I think it also made things worse because, I don't know, in a subconscious way, I felt like me being mad at things was kind of some sort of something that was helping my mental fortitude in some way or some form. But yeah, I'm here at the park, so I think I got my mountain bike. I'm gonna go ride these trails. So I hope y'all enjoyed. Peace.